guys? It's Trevor from SmashweRx. Another day at Diablo. We're going to be talking about some low back pain today. I started thinking about all the people that are coming into my office and all the people that come in here at Diablo, and they go over the same thing. They go through movements, they go through some really heavy lifts, and they get this really funky, gummed up low back pain. So we're going to boil it down to its essence on how to get rid of the back pain and how to do some quick fixes that are really effective and really easy to do. So let's bring it down to something that's really easy instead of going out and people getting all kinds of issues or all kinds of interventions with back things like injections or surgeries, which is, by the way, one of the most failed things in North America is low back surgery. Spinal fusion, all bad. So we'll go over some great mobility drills that we can do, and of course we'll do it this way so it's a little easier. I'll put the phone down so I don't have to walk around. You see my shaking hands and all the cups of coffee I had this morning before I work out. So when it comes to the low back, it's a really complicated area because you have pretty much 65% of your body weight resting on a bone about the size of a silver dollar, just thicker. And what's going on is that's the hinge of the body. So when you're moving, you have your pelvis that sits like this. In the front is the pubic symphysis. For those of us that do snatches, the ouch bone, you bang your bar off of it once in a while, hurts like crazy, lets you know don't do it again. And then the back portion of it has the posterior superior iliac spine, which is where the sacrum comes in and joins the back of the pelvis. So there's a lot of shear on that pelvis. And then right in the center that sits on top of that sacrum is that L5, that last lumbar vertebra. And that's that hinge. So if your hips are muted, which means they're closed up, going to put a lot of inability for that pelvis to move around the way it does when you get into the bottom of a squat. When the hamstrings are tight, they pull on the bottom, which if you look at the back of the pelvis, the innominate bones, there's something called the ischial tuberosity. It's that bump that you sit on. That's where the hamstring's attached. So that entire posterior chain needs to be unglued, and most people, super tight hamstrings. So we sit a lot. As we sit, shortens up the hip flexors, shortens up the hamstrings. Two completely destructive things for that low back. Unglue those and about 95% of your low back pain goes away. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to unglue that posterior chain in such a super easy way. So think about this. Your pelvis is either going to tilt back like this, bucket of water backwards, or it's gonna tilt forward like this into that extension. The extension is really bad because people climb under load and they get into this extension and it starts to put a lot of strain on that L5. So we're gonna unglue that entire posterior chain. This one's super funky. You're gonna grab a band, so easy to do. This is gonna wind up distracting the hip as well as putting a good stretch in the hamstrings. You're gonna put your leg up through the band. All you're gonna do is get some tension. So push away. Get some tension on that band. And then you're gonna start with the knee bent, and then you're gonna go ahead and straighten that out. Now, if this is easier by pointing the toe, that's fine. What I'd like you to do is do this. Really climb up that leg, pull it around, 2 minutes, really loosen up that posterior chain. That's number one. Number two, check this out. You're gonna take your leg, you're gonna bring it inside like this. So you see my foot, flat on the ground, get your hand on here, and just get as close as you can. Imagine bringing your chest to the ground. You're just gonna come all the way down. One leg straight out back. You're gonna wind up hitting that high hip. Hold that again for 2 minutes. You're gonna be doing this on both sides. Now, the reason we're gonna do that is that's gonna wind up ungluing that hip. Gonna wind up ungluing those hamstrings, that high hip, TFL, glute med. So we're gonna unglue both of those. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna hit that posterior portion. So what I'm gonna have you do is you're gonna step inside. Leg's gonna go back like this. It's gonna be high up underneath that ischial tuberosity. And you're gonna pull a good amount of tension on that band. Nice square knee here. And then all you're gonna do is squeeze your butt. Squeeze your butt and give this band a push if you need to. The only thing is when you give this band a push, notice how I lean forward. So it's gonna not address that psoas nearly as much. So you squeeze your butt, hit that psoas, camp out here again for 2 minutes. What you can do is you can also turn towards this left-hand side a little bit. Give that a little more rotation. Hi guys. And we got the class coming into Diablo, so they get to hear this stuff all the time. So that's gonna hit the psoas in the front, Iliacus runs across the top of the ilium, so we don't have to worry about that one right now. That's the posterior chain. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to smash it out with that lacrosse ball. So imagine taking this, we have that TFL that sits up in here, and then that glute med that sits right back here, controls the entire lateral side of that leg and that external rotation of that hip. So imagine your hip is really muted and closed. Smash it out with that lacrosse ball, it's going to open up, and bam, you get some more mobility in that hip. Find that hot spot. I'll come back here so you can actually see me. Take this spot, jab it into that eye hip. You're gonna take your leg, you can see my foot right down there. Trap the leg with that other knee, and then turn your foot up, and then just grind around on that thing. You know the routine, 90 seconds, 120 seconds. Smash away. Do that on both sides. I bet you 99 times out of 100, you're gonna relieve most of that low back pain. Nothing to do with that low back. So you have these big, strong muscles, hamstrings, semimembranosus, semitendinosus, biceps femoris, you have the quads in the front, the iliacus and the psoas. Explosive hip extension is pretty much the basis of a lot of the movements we do here at CrossFit. Loosen all that stuff up, you take a lot of the shear and strain off that low back starts to feel better. Hey, I'm Trevor from SmashweRx. I'll see you guys tomorrow.